love and light. To the nation that lift their hearts to the Lord, a song that shall conquer evil and shatter the spear and sword, and shatter the spear and sword. For the darkness shall turn to dawning, and the dawning to noonday bright, and Christ's great kingdom shall come on earth, the kingdom of love and light.
And we are privileged this morning to have a guest with us, a guest who has been pushing hard against the darkness. In fact, I believe the mission that he's with is Out of the Darkness.
Out of Darkness.
And Mark Giddens is homegrown, former Kingsford football player, Northern Michigan Wildcat player, Michigan State detective, but now he is serving the Lord full-time in this work and mission, and is eager to share a little bit about that with us. He's no stranger to most of us, and we're grateful that we can have a little part in his support. So with that, Mark, come please share the way God is helping you to tell the story to people who are living very difficult lives.
Thanks, Jim. Should be a thankful church today, because you have two missionaries that you guys support that are here to thank you today. And that's amazing. There's a lot of churches out there that can't find one that they can haul in, and you guys have two of them here today, so I applaud you. That speaks volumes about what kind of church you are. And that was my primary purpose for wanting to come today, was to thank you for your annual support and your continued prayers and financial support. It's a blessing. But I'm going to be brief and try to be quick, which is, if you've ever seen me here before, you know that's not what I do. I like to tell stories, and I like to talk, and I like to encourage people. But 2020 is what I'm going to talk about, in the pandemic, because it seems to be on everybody's mind, and a lot of people wonder what it was like and want to see how other people went through it and what they experienced. And for me, it was the best example in my more than 70 years here that of where God, we hear about this and we read about it and we're taught about it when we're young. God can take anything and turn it into something good and beautiful. And that's what he did for me in the pandemic. And Jim's going to probably share that same emotion, that same thing. It amazes me all my life what God does with he just picks up one thing and turns it into another with such ease. But 2020, back in March, when the pandemic started and they started locking things down, we were fortunate that Out of Darkness was granted permission. They said our work was essential. So I had a letter that I carried around in my car that said I was allowed to be out of my house and allowed to be working. But a lot of our trafficked people work in strip clubs. That's not a secret and probably not a topic we talk about a lot in church, but we serve the clubs in Atlanta as one of the ministries that we do. We go there and minister to the women. But they were closed. So there were thousands of women in the Atlanta area that were put out on the streets by their traffickers they don't get a holiday, they don't get paid time off, they don't have any unemployment. They had to go out on the street and earn money for their traffickers. So the number of women on the streets in Atlanta was just skyrocketed. So we had to add additional princess nights where we do outreach. Our safe house was, we actually, what we were doing because of the pandemic, when we rescued someone, we took them to a Holiday Inn, got them a room, and they stayed in there. We got them tested. Then we took them to the Holiday Inn. Then when we got their test results, we would take them to the safe house if they were negative, so that nobody in the safe house would be infected. So it was a record year for us. We were just inundated with people that were in need of our services, and so the Lord took that and said, well, I'm going to take this and make it a record year for you for outreach. We were we also do service to the homeless, and we were distributing 500 meals a day in Atlanta out of the back of a van, because all the shelters were all closed. All the soup kitchens and shelters were closed. So we were putting meals in the back of our vans and riding around from 11 until we ran out of food, passing out food. So it was a wonderful thing. So I want to thank you that I was able to continue to serve through that whole year. I made it till December. I was out almost every day, hugging people, shaking hands, doing the same thing I do every other day. I didn't change anything during the pandemic. I said, well, God, you put me here, you take care of me. And I made it till December. In December, I got COVID. It wasn't that bad, only lasted 4 days. I have Lyme's disease. I would take COVID every day of the year over Lyme's disease. Lyme's is a lot worse, so trust me. But one of the stories I wanted to tell you is, we get asked a lot about rescues. And what's it like, and who do you rescue, and who are these women, and what's going on out there? And it's hard to understand sometimes. Well, the Monday before I left, I did a rescue and picked a woman up at a jail. She was remanded from the jail to our program. And she got in the back seat, and she looked, rather cared for. She'd been in jail, so she wasn't on the streets. And she had one item with her, and that was her Bible. And she said, I've been reading this for 6 months, and it's the only thing I want to read for the rest of my life. But she was very articulate. And she saw on my tag on my van that it's a Army veteran tag. And she said, oh, I see you're in the Army, and asked what I did. And she said, I retired from the Army. And I said, oh, what did you do? And she was a little hesitant, and she said, I'm a little bit embarrassed to tell you, but she was an orthodontist. And she said, I was an orthodontist. And she said, she was 53 years old, and she got hooked on the pain pills and started prescribing herself pain pills. And the DEA caught up with her, and she lost her license. And she said, here I am. I'm on the street being trafficked. And she said, I have to stop it. I have to end this. I don't have any other way. So it was, and it's always those situations are always where you get the chance to talk about Jesus. And, the only way you're going to do this, the only way, and I tell every woman that I encounter, the only way you're going to make it out of this life and change your life is if you give it to Jesus. If we had the strength to do it on our own, it'd be easy. We'd have done it. But none of us can overcome our sins and our afflictions without turning it over to Jesus. And I think she was starting to realize that in her life, that she tried to do it on her own for 53 years and she wasn't doing too well. And but if you're ever wondering, could that happen to me or somebody in my family? Just think about that. Here was a young woman who was an orthodontist, retired from the Army, had a private practice, and wound up in being a prostitute in the streets of Atlanta. So it can happen to any of us, anytime. We're all human, and we're all subject to that weakness. So, and I'm not going to stay I like to stay and visit, but I buried my parents on Friday, and there's a mass for my mom over at American Martyrs, so I'm going to duck out, and I got 2 more services to go to today, so I'm going to try to get to them all. So thank you, and thank you for your support. You don't know how much I appreciate it. I did say at the 8 o'clock service, and I'll tell you, when we take a woman off the street, it costs us, it's free for them. They can come to us with nothing, and they can, they don't need a single thing. But it costs us about $102,000 a year to support a woman in the recovery programs. So when you're giving to those programs, remember it is essential. It's the work that people are doing, like Jim's group. Unfortunately, it costs a lot of money. But the beauty is that groups like you get to support that, and then you can feel good. You can have people come here and thank you for your generosity, because without you, it's not going to happen. And with your support and your love and your prayers, it does happen. So thank you.